So how many people listen to the car radio on their way to work? I know I asked the questions that are guaranteed to get the most yeses. Have you ever experienced this? Have you ever gotten into the car and just watched your hand shoot out and automatically grab that radio dial as if you didn't even have to do it, right? As if you weren't even taking part in the whole thing at all? Let me ask you this. Have you ever experimented with just driving along in silence with the car radio off? Has anyone ever done that? How was your experience of that? How did you feel when you did that?
A little awkward.
Yeah.
Because it was different, but just staying with it, I felt more relaxed, more peaceful.
Yeah. And so it was awkward initially, but then the awkwardness faded away. And this is the experience that a number of people I've worked with have had, because this is an exercise that I ask people to do if they're looking to cultivate just the ability to pay attention to a single task for a long period of time. I ask them to experiment with driving along in silence. And what they experience when they allow that silence to be is that they no longer have anything to drown out their inner experiences. So they no longer have anything to drown out their thoughts and feelings. And that's kind of disturbing and scary to them. And all of these experiences start coming up for them that they were shutting out using the car radio, like maybe their feelings of inadequacy about themselves, or their unmet childhood needs, or their concerns about the future, how big is the bonus going to be this year, oh my goodness, while they're driving along. And of course they're using the car radio to drown that out. So they come back to me and they say, why did you recommend this? That was a terrible idea. But like you said, if they have the trust and the faith in themselves to sit there in that silence for a while and just drive along and keep experiencing those thoughts and feelings, and realize that they actually can't destroy them, right? These thoughts and feelings are not actually going to hurt them in any way to experience. What they start to see is that they get more comfortable and more familiar with the experiences that are coming up for them. And as you can imagine, this can translate very well into your work, because it seems like in most of the working environments that we're in these days, we're required to hold our attention on a single task for a long period of time in relative silence. I mean, maybe an email will come in occasionally, maybe the phone will ring once in a while, but the bulk of our time is spent on writing that legal brief, or on sculpting that sculpture, or creating that computer program, or whatever it is that we do with the majority of our time. And because we have to do those things in silence, that's when all of those inner experiences that we don't want to be with start raging back into our consciousness. And if you get accustomed to being with those inner experiences, then it no longer seems so threatening and dangerous, and you become able to hold your attention on what you're doing for a longer period of time without having to go check email or listen to the iPod or whatever it is that you normally do. So, as I think all of you know, the car radio is really just the tip of the iceberg as far as the ways that we tend to distract ourselves from what's going on in our minds and bodies. I mean, for some of us, it's the iPod and the iPhone and the stereo and the Bluetooth and so on, or picking up the phone and instant messaging and so forth. So what I tend to say to people is that they should try taking an inventory of all of these ways that they create this background noise in their lives and start to gradually phase that out. So maybe the first day of the week, you'll try driving along in silence without the radio on. Maybe the second day of the week, you can try leaving the TV off when you come home. If you're in the habit of going home and switching on the TV immediately when you get in, maybe you can try just sitting there for 15 minutes in silence. And if you haven't tried this before, this can be a very hard thing to do, actually, for people. So yeah, don't underestimate the value or the difficulty of that. Maybe the next day, what you'll do is you'll leave the iPod at home and actually experience being at work without your headphones on all day, which I think is an experience that many people are not having right now. And if you start to do that, if you start to just allow yourself to be with that silence, then you'll cultivate the ability to hold your attention on a task for a long period of time.